Sorry, Pottsy.
No, hit it this way. Oh yeah, because of
Yeah. I don't know why it's changed. What's changed? Because I could do it from that side before. It's thrown me a bit.
Put it in front of his face because that's where the camera's.
Alright,
Yeah.
you're alright there, Pottsy. Yeah? Okay, this is act, scene 1, take 3.
Pottsy, please can you tell me your story?
Well, I had quite a good upbringing from my mum and dad and whatnot. Later on in years, I started getting involved in a bit of crime and stuff, petty stuff really mainly. So I've been in and out of prison over the years. I started work at around about 13 or something for a cobbler, doing locksmith and key cutting and shoe repairs. I've done other stuff as well. I've done crappy jobs really, like order picking and packing. I've done bricklaying courses. I've done plastering and stuff like that. I've gardening and stuff. I've got loads of different certificates in different sort of places, like with adult social care, vulnerable adults, vulnerable children. Got first aid certificates and stuff like that over the years. I had a bit of good bit of stability for a while. I was married. I had everything what most people have: the wife, the 3 kids, the house, the car, the business. I had everything, and then the social services got involved in my life around about 2016 or something. My daughter had come home and it looked like she'd had some sort of drugs or something, so we had a bit of a go at her. I don't know if she'd been on the weed or something like that. I didn't really know, but I didn't want her to go down them routes because I've gone down a few of them routes myself. The wife had an argument with her, and then she took her phone off her, confiscated her phone, so she'd run off up the road. She couldn't get her because she's got like mobility issues. So I ran after her, bear hugged her and put her back in the house and said, "Don't speak to your mum like an idiot," and sent her to bed. Next minute the police turns up and then knocks on my door and says, "There's been a report that you've assaulted your daughter, Mr. Potts." So I said, "I've not assaulted her," I said, "I've just dragged her back at it's 10 o'clock at night." I said, "Somebody's been stabbed on this estate the other week, go and look for him." He said, "Might have him me." And he said, "What do you mean dragged her back?" So I said, "I've just dragged her back, she's 13, she doesn't listen," so I just grabbed her and bear hugged her and threw her in the house and told her not to be an idiot to her mum and don't speak to her the way she has done. Next minute the social services started taking my kids off me. They got involved and they said, "Oh, you've got a criminal record and that." And the next minute one of my friends introduced me to some crack. He said, do you want to go with this? So I thought, oh yeah, bloody hell, it can't get any worse, can it? My life's falling apart as it is. And then I thought, oh yeah, that's brilliant that. And I thought, so it's only a tenner a pop. I didn't realise I wanted a tenner every 20 seconds a day for it because it was that greedy of a drug. So my life started spiraling even more out of control. And then the mental health followed after that then. I ended up in Meadowbrook, which is a mental institution in Salford. My head had gone. So, what do you call it? I was in there for about 3 months. I got out. I'd got a flat whilst I was in there, because they were splitting us up, me and the wife, and everything was going a bit Pete Tong. I had a flat, and then the bloke had let me sign the flat whilst I was in Meadowbrook. He was quite a good lad, good landlord at the time. Well, I thought he was anyway. I got out of the mental institution, and my head was still going because I got all the pictures of my kids on the wall and that, and it was making me upset. So I thought I'll go out and do some outreach work. So I went out doing a bit of outreach work because I'd done it before anyway, helping homeless people. And I come across this lad called Stephen Bolton. He was outside the Tesco on Market Street, and I asked him why he was there. He said about 9 weeks previously, his mum had passed away. Rochdale Council come out and says, "You're not entitled to this 3-bedroomed house." He was a carer for his mum at the time. He said, "You're not entitled to this 3-bedroomed house. Off you pop, go away." So he said, "What do I do now?" He said, "Bid like everybody else." So you know what the housing situation is like. You'll be waiting forever, won't you? So I asked him whether he did any sort of drugs or anything like that. He said he did crack and heroin. So I said, "Well, you can stay at mine, but I'm not having no drugs within my house because I've overcome all them things myself, and I don't want it in my house. If you're willing to get off it, then you can come at mine." And he said no, he refused, obviously, because he wanted to carry on and continue doing what he was doing. So I went out a couple of weeks later, and I seen another lady, what I know, sat outside the Aldi on Market Street. I was trying to help her. She was on the spice and stuff like that, so I was trying to get her some sort of help. She didn't really want it anyway. And the next minute, Stephen taps me on the shoulder and says, "Is that Pottsy?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Is that offer still available to come to your house?" He said, "I want to get clean." He said, "I want to get off the drugs." So I said, yeah, of course it is. So he came to mine, and then for about 9 to 10 weeks he was at my house, got off the drugs, did his rattle at mine. And the neighbour over the way, I was telling him bits of what we were doing and stuff, and he seemed interested. I thought, he might want to get involved and start helping people, donating like blankets maybe and stuff, or do a bit of outreach work, because he seemed very keen and interested. He wasn't. He was telling me, a landlord, that I was taking homeless people in. So after about 10 weeks, I got a phone call from my landlord. Says, "Who's this homeless tramp you've got at your house? Some baghead at your house?" So I said, "He's not." He said, "He's not a druggist, and he shouldn't talk about people like that." I said, "There's nothing in my contract to say that I'm not allowed to bring people back anyway." I said, "You know what I mean?" But he said, "Well, off you pop." The guy was a boxer as well. He was a bit of a tough nut. I didn't really want to get involved with any issues with him, so I just left anyway with the other guy. Then we both became homeless then, and then moved to a so-called friend's house. And I got whilst I was in his house, I brought all my stuff to his. All he had was a mattress. This chap, and then I made his house a home again. I made it all nice and stuff. And tellies. My home was perfectly okay. You know what I mean? I had everything. And the next minute, got into a bit of an argument with him. I think it was over some money. I think he wanted some money or something. I didn't have it. So his brother smashed my head in with an hammer 5 times. So then I ended up back on the streets again. Then I started living on the canal banks in Eccles. Started making that into a home on the side of the canal, putting a tarpaulin up. I had myself a TV there and stuff, and a kettle. There was a couch and stuff, and there's a few other homeless people there staying with me. Trying to make a little bit of a community just on the side of the canal, because I've been going around in circles. I've been going to homeless unit. I'd gone with my girlfriend at the time. I got into the homeless unit in Swinton, and I said, "Look, me and my girlfriend are homeless. I said, we need some help." And he said, she kept looking at her watch. It was getting near 5 o'clock. So I thought she's wanting to get home. She's clock watching. She said, "We're sleeping in a bush shelter, so we've got nowhere to go." And we didn't meet the criteria. I don't know what for. I said, "How come we not meet the criteria?" I said, "We're sleeping in squalor. My girlfriend's got eczema. She's scratching her legs all the time. She's going to get infected in the squalor what we're living in." He said, people urinate in the bush shelter, you know what I mean? I said, "I don't do it personally, because I'm not going to piss where I live, am I?" I said, "So I'll go down an entry or something." I said, "What's it take for me to go down the entry for my girlfriend to get battered, stabbed and raped?" I said, "It would be a priority then, you know what I mean?" I said, "Well, what does it take to be a priority? I'm homeless." So she said, "Personally, Mr. Potts, I couldn't care less if he was in a police cell tonight." So my girlfriend was a bit of a raging. She got up, she was going to go over the counter. So I had to drag her back up, and I said, "Listen, love," I said, "you're speaking to me like that." I said, "Oh, so obviously you're speaking to other people like that." I said, "You shouldn't be in this job. It's absolutely ridiculous the way you just spoke to me." I said, I can see your clock watching. It's like 5 to 5. It's nearly 5 o'clock now." I said, "You've got somewhere to go then, aren't you? You're probably going home to a nice warm bed." I said, "Well, we're not tonight, are we?" I said, "You're absolutely disgusting the way you just spoke to me." So we walked out there, and then I was still sat on the side of the canal. The police shifted me off and gave me a 48-hour dispersal notice to clear off. They came down and he says, "What are you doing here, Mr. Potts?" I said, "Living here." He said, "Well, you can't." I said, "Where do you want me to go then?" He said, "What do you mean?" He said, "We can't stay here." I said, "Well, have you got me a flat or something?" He said, "No, that's not my job." I said, "What is your job then?" He said, "To move you on." I said, "To go where?" So he said, I don't know. I said, "But you're not now." The 48-hour dispersal notice was not to camp anywhere within the whole of Salford. So I said, "Now you just took the whole roof off my head, haven't you, really?" I said, "I've got nowhere to go." He said, "Well, I don't care where you go." He said, "Go to Manchester, where everybody else goes." So I said, "Well, I don't want to go there." I said, "That's all my local network and connections are not down there." And I said, "I'll probably end up even worse, in a worse state than I am now." I said, "I'll hit some more drug lighting up the spice." I said, "Because at this present time, I'm not feeling so clever." You know what I mean? So Anyway, I moved from there then, and then I moved into an old mansion on Barton Road. There's a bloke there called Jesus John, one of my friends. There was no electric or anything there. It was a right shambles of a place. It was really run down. And I managed to get some power on from downstairs anyway, because I found out where the power source was, and we at least had some electric then and some heat. Then I think the electric company found out that we'd had that, and then the fire brigade got called in, so they kicked us out of there. Then we got out there. I didn't actually know what my rights were as a squatter back then, though. So then I researched it online and stuff, and realised that I could take over commercial buildings. So I took over one of PL Holdings' building over the road, which was an old boathouse. So we took over that. And they found out we were in there, and then some bully of a security guard come and says, "What are you doing in there?" I said, "We're living in there." He said, "Well, you can't." I said, "Well, we are doing." He said, "That's a 144 notice on the door." He said, "Oh, well, you know what you're talking about." He says, "You know we can't come in then, don't you?" He said, "Well," he said, "Who have you got in there?" I said, "I've got loads of vulnerable adults. Some like got drink issues, drug issues, some's got mental health issues and stuff like that." I said, "I'm just trying to help him, and trying to help myself as well, so I've got nowhere to go either." So he said, "Well, you're not," he said, you do know your rights." He said, "But there's no telling what'll go on in the middle of the night, is there?" So I said, "Well, you're a bit balmy then, really, aren't you? I've just told you I've got a load of people in here who've got loads of addiction issues and stuff like that." I said, "Mental health issues." I said, "There's no telling that." I said, "If someone's going to come in here in the middle of the night, you might end up in canal, mate." I said, "You know what I mean?" I said, you're coming into their home where they are at the moment. You're not using this building, and it's been empty for now about 5 years or something. You know what I mean? You're not doing anything with it." Well, anyway, then he started offering us money. Then he said, "Well, we'll give you like a $1 each or something like that." So I said, "Well, I've just told you a minute ago, didn't I? People's got addiction issues." I said, "You might give £100 to one of the guys in here. He might end up dead on the streets tomorrow if you just give him a £1 and he's just jacked something up his arm." You know what I mean? I said, £100, what's that going to do? If we are going to use it wisely, we've got to get us an hotel for a couple of nights, and then we're back to square one. So we got kicked out of there anyway in the end. We ended up in the near Malaysia Cafe. Used to be a pub, used to be the Devonshire Arms. Had been shut down for years. So we got in there, made that into a nice home as well. Put beds, mattresses in there, what we'd got from the bloke I'd made friends with at the side of the canal, because he had a warehouse with like beds, and he sold furniture and stuff like that. And he started supplying me all the stuff. Just going all the shelters, what was started running then. After that, a load of Asians, they owned it, the name Malaysia, and they was from the mosque over the road. They come over and says, "Look, we want you out of here." And then they boxed us into the actual residential bit at the back of it. So then we didn't have a leg to stand on then, really, because the commercial bit was at the front, so we could get, they don't really need no court, then they can get us out of there straight away. So we left of our own accord then. I then took over, what do you call it? I was on the streets again. It was winter, it was snow on my head, and I kept seeing a bloke we called Grandad. All of us used to call Grandad. And I was sick of seeing him in tents. He's got his tent burnt out loads of times. He'd been robbed. He's staying in bush shelters and stuff. He's becoming very ill and stuff. And I was sick of seeing him in that situation all the time. And then, sorry. We went into the doctor's surgery then, which has been empty for about 15 years. It used to be the Dr. Gambier's surgery. So me and a few others took over this building. We got in through the fire door at the back. And then within about 24 to 48 hours, we got about 18 people off the streets of Salford and Manchester. We got them from all over the place. We got them on taxis, in buses, in cars, and we got them to the shelter. We got other people on board what was willing to do voluntary work and like sort of man the building and run it. People that was homeless as well, you know what I mean? So it was run by the people for the people. I just put loads of shout outs on Facebook and said, "We're in this building now. Can you help us?" Beds and mattresses, couches were coming from all over the place. His donations was coming. We had an up and running shelter within about 48 hours. We had achieved the drug and alcohol services helping us for anybody that needed any help with addictions. We had the Salford Unemployment and Community Resource Centre over the road helping us, getting people back onto courses, English and maths courses. They was using their breakfast club in the morning, and they was using their washing machine facilities as well. And then we had, I think it was the Broughton Trust. We had them involved as well. We was getting them involved in CSCS card courses. The NHS then found out that we was in one of their buildings. So I wrote to them. I wrote to all the head offices and the people that owned the building, and anybody that was involved with owning the building or had some sort of stake in it. I'd emailed them all and said, look, I said, we are in one of your buildings. They said, we're very well aware of this. I said, we've now got 18 people in this building. I said, some of them are back into work. Some of them can't go back to work because they're not ready for going back to work yet. Or they're not up for it at the minute, but they have now got an address. They can get sort of benefits. So I said, the ones that are getting benefits and the ones that are working, they're all willing to chip in some sort of money. I said, I mean, if you get £100 a week off each one of them, you're getting £1,800 for a building that you've left empty for 15 years you've left it empty for. I said, you know, so you've been paying rates on that building all that time. Somebody's been paying the electric because every time I walk past, the lights are on and there's the steam coming out the flue. You know what I mean? So now you're going to be getting paid for this building. They said no anyway. And instead of doing that, they threw loads of money at it by getting what do you call it? They took it to court. We've got Manchester law firm involved with it on a pro bono basis, try to help us at court on humanitarian grounds and stuff. So we got well over after Christmas out of it. I think in January sometime they started kicking us out. They then employed, like I said, they employed barristers, judges, high court judges. Then to get us kicked out, all solicitors and barristers and all the rest of it, then all that money, you know what I mean, all this money could be going somewhere else, couldn't it, to help the owners rather than kick us out. So they then got the bailiffs in, but the bailiffs can't just kick you out. They've got to have high court bailiffs with them as well. And because we've got vulnerable adults in there, and we had a young girl under the age of 18, she was 17, so they had to get social services involved because there's vulnerable adults within the building. Then they've got to get the dog unit in because of what we call it, because we had a dog in there, so they always get a dog every time there's a dog there. And then the RSPCA, they've come out to make sure they're doing their job. And then they've got the locksmith, obviously, because we're not going to let them in willingly. And to oversee all that, they've got to an ambulance has got to be on standby, the fire brigade's got to be on standby. Nobody knows what's going to happen in this situation, do they? Because everyone's a bit high rate sometimes, you know what I mean? They've got nowhere to go, they're being through on the street. And then the police have got to oversee all that as well to make sure all the pieces kept. I'm thinking, all this bleeding money, what you just throwing at that, when you could have just left us in the building, you know. We're unpaid security guards, you know what I mean? As soon as we left the building, it got vandalised and ruined. The lead went off the roof and all sorts of stuff, you know what I mean? But while we were in there, we're not going to take all the copper, we're not going to take anything, you know, because we're living there. We need the copper, we need the pipe work, we need the electrics, you know. And then they employed 2 security guards then to sit outside this building. It's a nice warm building in nice warm vans with 2 dogs. And then they're paying these security guards to look at this empty building while 18 of us are sat outside looking at the empty building, freezing. I'm thinking that this is completely crazy. So from there we went to, I had another building lined up, then I had the vets on, what do you call it, on Barton Road as well, not far from the other squat we'd had, the mansion and the boathouse. So we got in there, we made that into a home as well. I always put every time we get into a building, I always put the bills in my name, so they can't enter then and say, look, we can get us done for theft of utilities. If the bill's in my name, there's nothing they can do about it. You know what I mean? Because they can't shut us down then. That was one of the things that they try and shut you down for. I'm not saying to pay the bills. I don't care. I don't mind being in debt. You know what I mean? I've been in debt all my life anyway, so sod them. And then we ended up getting kicked out of there. I did write a piece to, I think, the owners. I told them what we were doing, what we was trying to achieve. I mean, this building had been empty about 6 years as well. It was having none of it anyway. They kicked us out of there and had a chemist lined up, which was on New Lane. So we got in there. That didn't last very long either. We got kicked out of there as well. But then we moved on from there to the Unicorn pub in Eccles. We got in the Unicorn, made that into a nice home. I mean, it was an absolute wreck when we got in there, but we made it really nice. Really cleaned it up. We used it downstairs, the old pub part of it, as like a storage part, and the upstairs we used as a living accommodation. I got Sky TV put on in there, so we had the broadband, so Grandad had telly so he could watch his horse race, and the other lads could watch the match and stuff. You know, and we got a PC in there as well, so people could do the job searches and stuff like that. And then kicking us out of there, we got this big bully, the bailiff comes in, loads of them were there. Next minute, it starts getting a bit irate because obviously we're back to square one again. We've got nowhere to go. All these people have been sending to like the town hall and stuff like that to try and get housing, but we've been going around in circles and stuff. So obviously temper's going to be a bit high rate, but this bailiff was a real nasty piece of work, and he starts talking to one of my friends, what I now class as a friend, what was in the squat, what was homeless. I think obviously it was Polish because and the next minute I heard one of them say "Kurva," and then it was a big fight broke out. The big bailiff started smashing my friend's head in. He was only a small guy, my friend, you know, started jumping all over him. Next minute, my friend jumped up from out of nowhere. He must have just seen red, and he floored the bloke really. But I had it all on Facebook. I was recording it, live streaming it, so for our protection, and you know, so we can't get in trouble if he was going to try and like sort of turn the tables and say it was us. You know what I mean? So somebody's obviously seen that and thought this guy's not a very nice person, and they've rang the police on our behalf by the looks of it. The police had turned up to keep the peace, and they told the security guard, well, this bailiff said, "Get out in your van." He says, "You're bad, you'll never work in security again, get out." He went out sulking. The next minute, anyway, we got through out anyway. And as about 20 minutes later, we're all still knocking around the Unicorn, not knowing what to do or where to go. And then I got a phone call then off the Great Manchester Police. He says, "Is that Mr. Potts?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Saving People Shelter Project?" I said, "Yeah." He said, we've got 20 homeless people. We've got nowhere to go at the minute. Have you got anywhere we can put them?" I said, "You've just kicked us out of the bleeding pub. You're the ones who helped them." He said, "Oh, right." He said, "Well, have you got any more buildings then lined up or what?" Or I said, well, I have, but I'm not going to tell you where they are, am I really? He said, "Because the less people know, the better." I said, "Well, can you drop them off in Brookhouse?" Because one of my friends was going to put some of them up in his house. He had a 3-bedroom house, so he put some of them up there for a couple of nights. My mate put some up at his flat for a couple of nights. I had my own flat at the time then because I'd got somewhere, so I put some up at my flat as well. And then we took over the Albert Edwards in Eccles. Me and my friend went down there with a pair of ladders that we borrowed from somebody, 2 high-vis jackets and a bucket of soapy water, so it looked like we was window cleaners. I knew 2 weeks previously one of the lads what used to be in one of our squats had tried breaking into there. I think it was after some of the beer or whatever it was he was trying to get, I don't know. But I knew that he'd attempted to get in there and he got arrested and he'd been nicked for it. So I thought, well, one of the windows is going to be open or somewhere he's going to be where he's been trying to get in. So I've never actually broke into any of the buildings. I've always found somewhere like, is there a window open? Is there a fire door I can open? Because otherwise I'm getting done then for burglary basically, aren't I? So we jumped over the back wall, over the roof ridge, and my mate climbs up the ladders and he opened the window. He said, "This is the one." It went woo 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 woo. The alarm starts going off. So he starts jumping over to get back over him. He said, "I'm not staying there." He said, "The police will come." So he looks over the back wall thing, and he said, "The police are already there. I think they've seen me." So I said, "Oh, don't worry about it." I said, "I'll just go over and have a chat to him." So I went over the ladders and he went, "Oh, not you." He said, "Don't tell me the door just fell open and the window just fell off." So I said, No. I said, "About 2 weeks ago, you remember somebody tried breaking in here, didn't they?" He says, "Yeah, I'm well aware of that, Mr. Pottsy." He said, "And I know that." I said, "Well, obviously you know that the guy got nicked and he was trying to break in." He said, "Yeah, I know that." I said, "Well, the window was already open, as you say." So he said, "Oh, right." He said, "Well, you can't take this building." I said, "The 144 is already on the doors all around it. You can see it's visible, and there's people already in the building." I said, "So we're in it, there's nothing you can do. And he went, and he said to his other officer, he said he knows what he's talking about, he knows the law on squatting and commercial building. He says, well, just leave him to it, just there's nothing we can do really until they get a court order. And that was that. I then had some chap come to the shelter. He was asking for a picture in the back snug. It was a guy on a naval ship. It was Peter Bredman that used to live on my road. It was like a memorial sort of plaque in the pub, like they have in pubs, you know, when they put it under in memory of Pete. And he had a poem at the side what he'd wrote. He said, "Can I have them back?" I said, "Nothing's going to go missing in there. He said, everything what was in here is going to stay in place." So he wanted it anyway, just for peace of mind anyway. So I gave it him. And his name was Rod. I had a few drinks with him in the local pub around the corner. Got friends with him. I thought he was friends with me. And then on the day of what do you call it, Remembrance Sunday one day, a couple of years back, he's knocked on the front door and he says, "Right, Pottsy, could you let some fireworks off, please? At 1 minute to 11. He said, "Do it at 1 minute to 11, so we can observe the 2 minute silence afterwards." So I didn't think nothing of it, so I put them in the pumpkin and let them off. I also put his medals back on as he was coming off his jacket. So I let the fireworks off at exactly 1 minute to 11. And next minute the whole crowd come over and thought I was being like they'd done it as a disrespectful sort of thing, when it was meant to be sort of like a gun salute. Like wow, that's how he'd explained it to me. And there was throwing loads of stuff out the windows and that, trying to break in. All this whilst I've got an ex-veteran and a pensioner within my building, so they obviously didn't know what people have got in there. I mean, they probably walked past this guy a million times on the streets. He's one of the forgotten people, isn't he? He served his country and now he's at rock bottom and nobody helps him. I don't get the way any of the system works. It's completely bonkers and crazy. Oh, I got 3 months for that, and then I got out. They took me flat off me in Salford, even though the rent was being paid, because the rent gets paid for up to 6 months if you're in prison. I got that paid through Shelter helped me get the housing benefit to continue paying it whilst I was in. Well, they took it off me saying that for antisocial behaviour. But I said, well, I've not caused any antisocial behaviour at my home. I said it was an Eccles, you know, so it's nil and void. It's irrelevant that I've done something somewhere else. But they took it off me anyway. It was through a supported living, supported accommodation. It was through. So that's all the support went from that. It's supposed to be a supported accommodation, absolute bonkers. So then I was homeless again, and then I went back to the homeless unit in Salford to see that horrible woman again. What had told me she didn't care whether I lived in a police cell or not. And luckily this time they put me somewhere in Oldham, not Oldham, Middleton, sorry, called the Asherton Arms pub. But there was more drugs in there than there probably is in Cartagena, you know what I mean? So I'd gone in there, it looks okay when you walk in, the reception looks nice, and then I goes upstairs, there's a girl on a bed. I mean, I like I say, you know, as you know, I've been through drugs myself, and but there's a girl opposite, they've just threw me into the lion's den. I mean, if I was a weak person and I wasn't gonna, and I was in the frame of mind of going back to the drugs, I could have easily done that day. Because I just thought I'm going around in circles there. So I've gone up to my room. So, some girls said, "Have you got a Rizzler over there, mate?" I said, "Yeah." She just sat on the bed doing a crack pipe like it's the norm. Smoke bellowing out and things. Some other lad comes over with an hypodermic needle, tracking me, you know. He's like, "Oh, it's Pottsy, innit? He does those shelters." I'm like, "Whoa!" I said, "It's not coronavirus, mate. Just what's what you I said, what's what you've got with that?" He said, "Oh, I'm sorry about that. I didn't realise I still had it in my hand." So I said, "I'm like, oh, wow." So I've looked under my bed because I've dropped my bus pass under the bed, and there's just more drug paraphernalia in there than I've ever seen in my life. I'm thinking, you just sent me into the lion's den. I mean, did they do this on purpose or what? You know. Then my other friend came. He'd only been clean about 6 months or something. So he was in the frame of mind like, whoa, everybody's doing it, and he went straight full circle again. So he went down that revolver window. Unfortunately, he's passed away now, as his granddad has as well. He managed to get a house, Grandad, what we call Grandad. 12 months later, he was gone. I think the streets had took it out of him over all them years. So that's it.
How does it feel to help the homeless?
Rewarding. feel like I'm doing something to help others.
So, do you get donations as a project, like funding?
I do it all off my own back. Just put them up and use my own funds. I try and get other people involved as well. Anybody that's going to do it, just for helping sake.
Don't you think that can have an effect on your mental health as well?
No, not really. No. I mean, I've had some idiots there, but you can get idiots anywhere in life, can't you? It doesn't matter where they are. I mean, I've lived on council estates, I've lived on posh estates, and there's knobheads everywhere. You know what I mean? So.
Have you ever come across people that you can't help?
There's many people who can't help them. Many people who wish I could have helped. Yeah. Some of them quite close friends, yeah, as well.
So, do you have a team or a project, or is it just you?
Just me.
It's just you, isn't it?
Yeah.
You told me that. Sorry.
My girlfriend helps out as well. So
Yeah.
she's supportive of me. So the lads what I have normally have all the other girls and I have that they're willing to help themselves. You know what I mean? They can become part of the same sort of thing, can't they? And I've got a couple of people flats on my estate now, which they are now helping other people as well. So.
Brilliant.
So.
Does Shelter as an association help you with your project?
In certain ways, sometimes, yeah. I mean, they helped me get me flat actually. Well, it didn't help me get me flat. I got a flat because when I was in there, when I was in the Ashton Arms on April Fool's Day, I got a message off the council saying that you're moving to a flat a bit further up the road in Middleton. So I thought, are they taking the mickey? It's April Fool's. I just said, they really got me somewhere. So they sent me down to this place, and there was like a safe thing on the outside of the door, with the code in, because it was coronavirus stuff and all that lot going on then. So I just walked into this flat and thought, it's an empty flat, just nothing bare, like, and I thought, I was fucking really isolated. I didn't know anybody there, you know what I mean? And then a few months down the line, I got a phone call off the council saying that we're drawing help with it from you now, Mr. Potts. I said, why is that then? She said, because by going to prison in the first place, you made yourself intentionally homeless. So I said, well, that's bleeding bonkers. I said, does that mean that everybody who goes to prison now has made themselves intentionally homeless? I didn't want to go to prison, really, you know. It wasn't my choice. I said, well, you did the thing, so you went to prison, so you made yourself intentionally homeless. So we're withdrawing support for you. I said, oh, great, that's nice. So Shelter then, I rang up Shelter and needed me a nice real piece, a legal piece, to send back to them to say why they should keep continuing support. I think it was a chap called Dave, really helpful he was. And he also made me aware of a fund called the Vicar's Relief Fund. So if I did get a flat anywhere, they would pay the bond in cash, because a lot of the councils don't pay the bond in cash. They just pay it. They say if the place gets wrecked, then we'll pay. You know what I mean? It's not an actual cash money, but most landlords want the money, don't they? You know what I mean? They want the cash. So a lady over the road who I became friends with, she came over and she went, Pottsy, there's a flat going over there. She said, she'd been empty for ages. So I said, all right, I rang the number. I said, look, I managed to get through to the lady. I said, look, I haven't got a pot to piss in at the minute. I said, I'm in temporary accommodation at the minute, but they're withdrawing my accommodation soon. So I said, I'll be on the street and be homeless again. I said, you can come and have a look at my place. Everywhere I'll ever live, it doesn't matter whether I'm on the streets, in a flat, or in a shared place or anything, or even in prison. I'll keep the place nice, you know what I mean? So she come down, she had a look at it, she went, this looks all right. I said, I can get you the money. I said, I'm on benefits at the minute. I said, but they'll pay the rent, obviously, whatever it is you need. I said, what do you call it? There's a fund called the Vicar's Relief Fund, and they'll give you the deposit, but they won't give it me until I've actually signed the agreement and stuff. So she went, there's the keys, you can move in, I trust you. So I went, wow, yes. That's the biggest break I've had in my life for a while, you know what I mean? So that was that. That was good things, really.
Sorry, can I interrupt?
Can I just do one last question?
Yeah. We're running really short time though.
Okay.
Did the lockdowns take its toll on you?
No, I just carried on as normal, really. I didn't abide to any of the rules. Rules are there to be broken. I never follow rules.
Thanks very much. I mean, thanks. I mean, it touched me a lot when you recounted and remembered Grandad on a couple of occasions. I acknowledge that, like it, because it affected me. I think the other thing I just wanted to say is, didn't want to interrupt because when you see the enormity of somebody's story, the challenge we've got is that's an hour and a half long documentary in and of itself. So there's there is, and there's a factual film, and there's like you could make a drama about